Yo, what's up? My name's Patrouski, and welcome to my budget guide for still some of the most powerful Pokemon for completing the storylines within PokeMMO. Now, there are a couple things I need to preface first before jumping into my list. A really important part of a powerful storyline Pokemon is that you get the most powerful form or evolution of that Pokemon as early as possible. Which is why you end up not seeing things like Volcarona or Salamence or Tyranitar or uber powerful pseudo-legendaries on this list. You just get them too late in the storyline for them to actually be useful for your storyline run. These Pokemon are obviously super powerful, but you usually either get them at the Elite Four or once you've already completed it. If you want to run with those Pokemon for fun, I absolutely encourage you to do so, but there just are better storyline options. It's also important to note I don't encourage things like Guts, Swellow, and Raticate just because there's better options in PokeMMO. Neither of these Pokemon are particularly bad throughout the storylines. Hell, they're still really great for Nuzlocke, but they lack the tools to solo the PokeMMO storylines. Both of these Pokemon, being Guts Raticate and Guts Swellow, have damage and speed, and that's it. They're really fragile, which is just not something you need to pick between within PokeMMO. When you have access to a global market to buy and sell Pokemon alongside 5 generations of different power levels of Pokemon, things change pretty drastically. Alright, but with that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into our list, and feel free to leave your own recommendations in the comments. If you find this video helpful, maybe consider leaving a like on it and subscribing for daily PokeMMO videos. This list is also in no particular power level order, I'm just kind of throwing them together. Alright, first things first is hidden ability or even non-hidden ability Nidoran / Nidoking. This line of Pokemon is obviously super powerful. You get Nidoking pretty freaking early. Pokemon that can get to level 16 and then evolve via a Moonstone or a Trait Evolution are really powerful and semi-common within the Kanto region. You get Nidorino at level 16, being able to Moonstone it into Nidoking, which you get for free in the storyline, is so good. Looking at Nidoking's base stats, 102 physical attack, 85 special attack, 85 plus speed. This is something you'll notice quite often. 80 plus speed is pretty much all you need throughout the storylines. You do reach a redundancy on speed much quicker through PVM versus PvP. And being able to go mixed on Nidoking is super important. Having a ground type to resist electric attacks like Volt Switch or Thunderbolt throughout the storyline is super important. And even having a poison type to dodge toxic Venoshock combos, which do come up, is really nice. Now, depending on the time period, hidden ability Nidoking might be pretty cheap, and you definitely want to look out for that. To do that, go search Nido on the GTL, go to advanced search, go to hidden ability, and click yes. Sheer Force is really what makes Nidoking shine. If you can find a cheap one, it's definitely worth picking it up. You can also search for male and go for that. You could also just rock a Nidoqueen with Sheer Force. That is also totally acceptable. It's not quite as good as Nidoking because you end up getting more bulk and less offense, which is not nearly as good for the storyline, but it's still not terrible. Something really interesting about Nidoqueen is that you can go for some sort of stall strategy if you really want, since it's one of the few Pokemon that can pack Stealth Rocks, Spikes, and Toxic Spikes, but I don't really recommend that in the storyline. Stealth Rocks are good, but taking all the time to set up Toxic Spikes and Spikes is not. But in short, great stats plus a great ability increasing lots of damage, and then a great move pool and great coverage, and stab with Earthquake and Sludge Bomb if you want to go physical or special or mixed, just all make Nidoking a fantastic, pretty budget choice. What I recommend doing for searching for a lot of these budget mons is just going over to the GTO, looking for what you need, hidden ability, yes, doing no stats, and just browsing from the cheapest, and then looking for the correct nature that you need. I think that's something that people forget and new players forget. Something I forgot a ton when I was new to the game. Nature is much more important than IVs. So for example, this Nidoran for 9,500 Pokeyen, I'd say is a fantastic option. The fact that it's naughty allows it to go mixed. It has 20 plus special attack, 30 attack IV, which is awesome. It's 0 speed, obviously, which is definitely a weakness, but it can be made up for. You could EV train it, or just, it's probably going to be fast enough to outspeed most things. Once again, once you're at that 85, 80 speed tier, you're pretty much outspeeding most storyline Pokemon, as long as you're leveled up to that point, or at least over leveled comparatively to the storyline mons. But that's enough about Nidoking and the Nido line. Let's go ahead and move on. Now, I've talked about this next Pokemon at tons of length. I've talked about Hidden Ability Gyarados, but Hidden Ability Gyarados is quite expensive now. You're looking at like 50, 60K minimum on the GTL, if I'm not mistaken. Let's go ahead and show you guys really quick. But this slot goes to non-Hidden Ability Gyarados, right? That's right. Non-Hidden Ability Gyarados is still pretty freaking cheap and still really affordable for good storyline runs. Let's just quickly look up 25 plus, 25 speed, and let's scroll through and see if we can find something with a usable nature. Impish is usable. It's not great, but it's usable. We might want to lower the stats. Naughty is good. That's 10K. That is a great storyline mod. 10K. This one's adamant. That's even better. There we go. 10K for 25 plus attack and speed. That's just a storyline monster right there. It has Intimidate, which is still a really good ability. You could put Rain Dance on this thing. Dragon Dance, Waterfall. It's already got 2 of the moves it needs. Dragon Dance, Waterfall, Crunch. You can put a coverage move on the 4th slot or Rain Dance for some sort of weather control. Gyarados just sweeps everything. If you've ever used him in PokeMMO, you really know this. But that's it for Gyarados, as I've talked about him in so many videos at such length. I want to go ahead and move on. Next up, the 3rd slot is really a budget king that gets super forgotten, and it's actually the Geodude line. I really like Golem. Golem was really good in my Nuzlocke specifically. You can get him at level 25 by getting a Graveler and then trade evolving into a Golem, which is pretty early on, I'd say. His stats are super solid, really good bulk, lacking the special defense bulk, but really good physical bulk. And the HP kind of makes up for it to some extent. Really solid attack stat. People forget that Golem has a 120 physical attack stat. That is really good. Now, the glaring issue with Golem is the speed. You might want to have something like Rock Polish to make up for that, to sort of go for some sweeps. But if you have Sturdy, it makes up setting up that Rock Polish that much easier. Or if you don't want to run Rock Polish, you still get a lot of good utility out of Golem. Golem can be a great sturdy stealth rock setter, which is really good if you're having trouble against a lot of gyms, but it's really, really good against the Elite Four. One of the quickest recommendations I always give people if they're stuck at any Elite Four within PokeMMO is to get a sturdy Stealth Rock Pokemon. Setting up Stealth Rock against PokeMMO Elite Four is really, really powerful. The reason being, there's tons of Focus Sashes and tons of sturdy Pokemon, as well as tons of Flying and Dragon types. A really good example is the Kanto Elite Four. You see, the Kanto Elite Four, if you pick Venusaur, your rival's going to have Charizard. That thing's going to take 50% HP coming in. There's also Yanmega, I believe, at a different region's E4, and you'll also see Dragonites around. Yanmega's taking 50% HP on the switch in into Stealth Rocks. Dragonite's taking 25% and breaking its multi-scale. That is a really big deal. Or breaking Pokemon sturdy or breaking their Focus Ashes. Stealth Rock is really surprisingly good in PokeMMO storylines. Golem just also has an incredible typing defensively for the decent extent. Can obviously switch into those Volt Switches and Thunder attacks like we've talked about before, having that ground typing. And then it also has phenomenal offensive coverage. There's a reason why you heard things like Rock Quake or, Rock Slide Earthquake. That combination was so good for so many years, and then it became Stone Edge Earthquake. Those two moves in combination just hit most Pokemon. And having both of those moves as stab is super, super nice. And if you end up going Rock Blast, which is a phenomenal option that I recommend going if you can slot it in, Rock Blast is fantastic because it breaks those Pokemon's Focus Sashes or Sturdy even more if you don't want to have Stealth Rock on your Golem. But that's Golem, a super underrated pick and a very good budget Pokemon. Let's definitely check out him on the GTL. I will say something you might want to look for when looking for a Geodude / a Golem is going for that jolly nature. You really do want to make up for that speed. And look at this, 25 plus attack, 25 plus speed, level 9 Geodude with jolly nature. This is phenomenal. This is so cheap. It does have Rock Head, which definitely can be used over Sturdy. You just want to keep that in mind during your moveset. You might want to throw something like Double Edge on this when it tries to learn it, which you might not go if you're the Sturdy moveset. Look at this one, 31 attack. This one's 8K. You could sell this later down the line after you're done your storyline. It has Stealth Rocks. These are both fantastic options for uber cheap. And if you can't find a cheap Geodude, remember with all of these options to search up their middle evolutions as well. Search up Graveler, search up Golem, and see what other options you have. This these golems actually bring up something really interesting to keep in mind. Watch out for alphas. Alphas may be really tempting and really good because they have such good stats for cheap. 2 times 31 here, Jolly Nature, it looks awesome. The issue being, it's level 72. The issue with alphas for storyline Pokemon is that usually they're over leveled and you're not actually going to be able to use them. All right, next up is Kingdra, another Pokemon that really helped me during my PokeMMO Nuzlocke. Kingdra is really mixed across the board. Obviously, you see it being really decent at everything, which usually isn't that good. Usually when you see something decent at everything, you kind of avoid it, but its stats are so high and so decent at everything, and once you put this thing in Rain, that's when it really shines. Now, you might think, oh, Rain, because of Swift Swim, you're able to outspeed everything now. That's nice, but once again, in a storyline, speed becomes redundant pretty quick. The big thing with Kingdra in Rain is just having that Surf Stab or that Hydro Pump spam stab. That makes Kingdra just do so much damage that it really pushes it over the edge and hits a lot of checkpoints. Now, I recommend either putting a Rain Dance TM or teaching your Kingdra Rain Dance, or pairing it with a Pelipper or Wingull. I think it has to be a Pelipper. I don't think Wingull gets it, but pairing it with a Pelipper with Drizzle. Now, keep in mind, Pelipper is the only Pokemon in PokeMMO that learns Drizzle. A lot of people think Politoed or stuff like that, but in PokeMMO, Politoed does not have access to Drizzle. Don't be confused by that. So, Pelipper is your only Drizzle option. You could get a really cheap, shitty Pelipper for probably 2 to 5k and just have it set up Drizzle and then either just die or switch out over to your Kingdra or whatever it may be. Kingdra ends up being really good because of its typing as well. The fact that it's Dragon Water allows it to dodge the Grass weakness and the Electric weakness. It ends up being neutral against those because the Dragon type wards off all of those elementals like Grass attacks as well. It ends up being hit neutral by a lot of things. And being hit neutral by a lot of things in the storyline is actually good. As long as you're not being one-shot, it means you're able to set up a Rain Dance turn 1 and then sweep from there. At the time of recording, I can actually go over to the GTL, do 20 plus in special attack and speed, go modest nature, and then I see a Kingdra for only 1,500 Pokeyen. That is incredibly cheap. You may not find one for this good of a deal during when you look for it, but make sure to check for Horsey and Seadra and all of the middle evolutions and everything. And if you don't see anything that match these stats, feel free to lower these or just get rid of these IVs. As long as the IVs are above like 10, as long as you have correct nature, that's going to be the most important thing. 10% is just so powerful. This is one special attack. I'd probably avoid that one. Modest 11. Honestly, that's usable. It has the bulk lacking the speed. But yeah, some of these, like this is honestly usable in my opinion. 31 HP, 25 plus defense, low special attack, but 24 speed. That modest nature is really going to make up for that and just do a lot more than if you had that 31 speed stat. 31 special attack, excuse me. Going a Rain team in general is also just really good in PokeMMO. If you want to go that for the storyline route, you can actually slot in Ludicolo as an extra on your team. Ludicolo is just really, really good, having incredible coverage, being Water Grass, a super interesting, unique typing, being able to have Energy Ball, Giga Drain for sustain can be super good. You can even go Ice Beam for coverage. Surf is free with the HM throughout the storyline. Ludicolo is a great slot in if you want to go that water team Rain Dance route. All right, next up is another Pokemon that a lot of people don't think about when talking about the storyline. Another powerful Pokemon during my Nuzlocke, but it's also just a powerful Pokemon in general and in PvP. Magnezone. Magnezone can end up doing a lot of stuff. Now, the biggest issue with Magnezone is that it has a 4 times weakness to ground. This is a big deal, and it makes it like not really the strongest Pokemon on this list, but it can still do a lot of really cool things. Its typing is really good. It has a 4 times weakness to ground, which is a big deal. You need to switch it out against anything that could have that coverage or any ground type. That's a big deal. Keep that in mind. But it's also immune to Toxic and Sludge Bomb and other poison type attacks. It's able to dodge most things and tank things really well. Any grass type, water, any attacks like that. Fire will get hit pretty hard by, but most of the elementals it'll dodge pretty well. And it has a phenomenal, absolutely disgusting, just overall stat line. I was going to say the special attack. 130 special attack is just so high. Followed up by a 90 special defense, huge bulk, 115 physical defense, 70 HP is fine. It's so good. Obviously, the biggest issue is the speed. Speed, it's definitely lacking in. Another Pokemon you definitely want to go like Timid Nature on, as opposed to the plus special attack, Modest, Rash, or Mild Nature. You can go those if you want, but I would look for something like Naive, Hasty, or Timid. Now, you also get it pretty early on. At level 30, you get a Magneton, and you're able to evolve that into a Magnezone. But keep in mind, you do have to level it up near a magnetic field, which is kind of specific. Think the Kanto power plant is where you can do this. You can also do it at, I believe, Mastralton Cave in Unova. There are certain locations. Yeah, I think it's Mastralton or Chargestone, excuse me. Chargestone Cave in Unova. Certain locations like that across each region. There should be one in each region where you can evolve into Magnezone. Magnezone is also another Pokemon with a bunch of alphas on the GTL, which you do want to watch out for and actually not buy, since they're often going to be over leveled. But let's go ahead and show you what I would look for if looking for a Magnemite. These things are stupid cheap. 20 plus special attack and 20 plus speed. We see a bunch for under 2k. All you want to do if you're at this point is essentially scroll down until you see a usable nature. Hasty is honestly usable. 30 special attack, 24 speed. What was that, like 1500 Pokeyen? You could honestly definitely use that, but you can look for something a little better. Getting Sturdy is probably more beneficial than Magnet Pull. You're probably not going to want Magnet Pull during the storylines. Rash can work there as well. Let's keep going, see how many cheap ones we can find. Relax, Sassy, none of those are great. Now we're at the 2k price range. Ooh, Naive, 22 special attack, 22 speed. Rash, this one has a 31 IV and special defense. You guys get the point. There's so many cheap Magnemites that you can get. Once again, just try to prioritize making up for that speed, and don't feel bad going Volt Switch. A lot of people don't want to go things like Volt Switch in the storyline because it just has less damage than Thunderbolt, so you don't really want to go for it. A lot of people avoid it, and I understand that thought process. However, Volt Switch is actually super good in the PokeMMO storylines. I will say it is a TM on Magnezone, which probably makes it not worth spending the 20 to 30k on just for the storyline, but just in case, allowing you to reposition, especially as a slower Pokemon like Magnezone, is so freaking good. If you switch in Magnezone against your opponent's Wheezing or Coughing or Muck or some sort of poison type, right? Nidoking, etc. You switch it into that poison type, you dodge the poison attack, then you can Volt Switch on what they're switching in to deal with your Pokemon, and you can get back out and reposition. Also, being able to tank an attack and then switch via Volt Switch is super nice, so that your incoming Pokemon doesn't have to tank the attack if it's frail. All right, next up on the list is a Pokemon that I've talked about pretty extensively in the past before, Blossom. Blossom is really powerful because you get Quiver Dance. Do not be a fool and go Vileplume. Vileplume is so much weaker in the storylines versus Blossom. Blossom obviously has a pretty low speed stat at 50, but it makes up for it and more with Quiver Dance. If you don't know, Quiver Dance is a move that gives +1 special attack, +1 speed, and +1 special defense, all in one turn in one setup move. Setup moves in general are extremely good throughout the PokeMMO storylines, and you really want to look out for them. Sleep Powder plus Quiver Dance plus Giga Drain and Sludge Bomb is just all you'll need on Blossom, and you also get it really early on. Once again, at level 21, you can Sunstone a Gloom into a Blossom. It has really incredible bulk, a really solid, decent enough special attack stat, middling speed that gets made up for by Quiver Dance. It really just ends up being unkillable and unstoppable, and you also end up sustaining with Giga Drain. The Oddish line is also probably maybe the cheapest one on this entire list. There's so many Oddishes, so many Glooms on the GTL. If I looked up 20 plus special attack and speed, I had these two Glooms come up, one of which only being 3k, Modest Nature, really good IVs, 20 plus special attack and speed, 30 defense IV is super nice. This one's 3,500 Pokeyen, 20 plus special attack and speed, Modest Nature. You can also go Timid. This one's 31 speed and Timid, male, so you can sell it later down the line for 13k. Not terrible. Let's check Oddish for Timid as well and see if there's anything. 7,500 for this female Oddish. Timid, 31 defense, 20 plus special attack and speed. It's a super solid option. And you can just catch Oddish as well, pretty much anywhere early game in most regions. I remember I pretty much always catch Oddish in every single storyline run that I do, just as a sweet scent Pokemon, worst case scenario. But if you get a good one, it ends up being a really powerful Blossom. All right, I've got two more Pokemon left to cover. I know I'm spending a lot of time on each Pokemon, but there's just so many things to talk about and so many things to consider when talking about what makes a Pokemon good for a PokeMMO storyline. So I appreciate you guys sticking with me. Hopefully you're enjoying the video so far, and if you are, once again, make sure to let me know by either liking the video, leaving a positive comment, or subscribing. All right, this next up Pokemon is a pretty interesting one. It's talking about Darmanitan. A lot of people think that Darmanitan is a fire fighting type. It's just a fire type, unfortunately, but still a really, really powerful one. Now, I will say, one of the weaker Pokemon on this list in some regards. This is a Pokemon that is kind of lacking one of my fundamental rules. It's lacking bulk. But I will say the power that Darmanitan brings to the table can kind of be worth that. But Darmanitan is self-destructive. He lacks longevity. He has things like Flare Blitz and Double Edge, and those end up being like his most powerful moves. And when you throw those moves off, they're pretty much going to one-shot anything. A choice-banded Darmanitan with Flare Blitz and Double Edge, if you're struggling with one, there's just one Pokemon you can't one-shot or can't kill, I would rock a Darmanitan. He is really going to fix anything and everything, no matter if it resists. It could 4 times resist. I don't care. And if you have an adamant choice-banded Darmanitan with Flare Blitz, throw that thing at any Pokemon, it's going to do insane damage. It's rocking that sheer force ability. It has that 140 monstrous physical attack. Darmanitan's just a demon. It's also pretty easy to actually farm. It's farmed just north of Castelia City on Route 4, really early game in Unova, and it's also the same place, the same location you farm for things like Sandile and Scraggy, which are 2 of the best Pokemon for storylines in PokeMMO. Probably the 2 best, aside from Gyarados. Don't sleep on Darmanitan. He can definitely be a problem solver, but at the same time, he's not going to be your 1v6 sweep everything sort of Pokemon. He's going to end up taking too much recoil and just get taken out before that happens. But Darumaka and Darmanitan just end up being significantly cheaper than Crocodile or Scraggy and their counterparts. This one's been listed for 5 days. It's Naughty Nature, 25 plus in HP, attack, speed, also 19 defense is super solid. This thing is going to be super, super powerful. It's only 10k. There's also really cheap options like these 2, both Naughty Nature, only 2k a piece on these guys, 25 plus to 20 plus attack and speed. Next up, we have one of the more expensive Pokemon on this budget list, but you can definitely still find some really cheap Shelders, but we're talking about Cloyster. Specifically, if you ever get a Cloyster for the storyline, please, please, please double check to make sure that it's Still Link ability. If you get a Shell Armor Cloyster, it's going to be way less powerful. What makes Cloyster good is the Still Link ability. You want to get a Shell Smash Still Linking Cloyster, and that's going to make it an absolute monster. So Shell Smash is this setup move that lowers its defense and its special defense by 1 stage, which makes it much frailer, but it raises its attack, special attack, and speed by 2 stages, which is extremely powerful. You can stay physical on this. You can go mixed, which is nice, but one of the biggest things that's kind of scary about Cloyster that you think of when you see Shell Smash is, oh, the amount of Focus Sash and Sturdy Pokemon that are in PokeMMO. Aren't they able to Revenge Kill Cloyster pretty easily? And that would be the case if the Pokemon didn't have Skill Link and didn't have moves like Icicle Spear, launching 2 to 5 attacks. So Cloyster is pretty much the best Pokemon at breaking through Sturdy or Focus Sash Pokemon. You really want to combine the power of Still Link with moves like Pin Missile, Shell Smash, Rock Blast is really good, TMs, which are kind of expensive, and Icicle Spear. Even if you're just Shell Smash, Icicle Spear, and then maybe Hydro Pump as like a special attack and coverage, you're going to do really well. If I were to search for 20 plus attack, special attack, and speed for a Shelter, I find this one for 14k, Naughty Nature, which is perfect, exactly what we need, allowing Shelter to be a mixed attacking Pokemon. I will say this one does have hidden ability access and will have Overcoat, which isn't as powerful. Once again, watch out for stuff like this. I would not recommend purchasing this. You need that Skill Link ability. So let's switch up our stats. Since we're mostly going to be physical and we want to go mixed, I recommend checking out 10 plus attack, 10 plus special attack, and 20 plus speed. Obviously, 10 plus IVs just seems really low, but that nature is really going to make up for it. And what I found was this Shelter for 2,200 Pokeyen, 17 attack IV, 13 special attack, and 26 speed. After a Shell Smash, this thing is going to be a monster. And that is going to be the last Pokemon we had to talk about today. This ended up being a much longer video than I expected, but there's just so many caveats to talk about when talking about storyline Pokemon like this. The PokeMMO storyline in general is just pretty complicated. I know this might have been a little more in depth than maybe what some of you guys have expected, but I really hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was helpful. If it was, once again, make sure to let me know. Comments, like the video, dislike if you didn't like it. That's totally fine as well. Subscribe to the channel for daily PokeMMO videos. Follow the Twitch for streams Monday through Thursday at 12 p.m. ET. Discord link is down below if you're interested in that. And if you want to go above and beyond and support the channel, if this guide helped you enough to warrant it or gave you some mildly entertaining background content while you yourself are grinding those storylines, consider becoming a YouTube member for $5 a month, dropping a Twitch Prime or a Twitch sub over on my Twitch, or hitting up my PayPal or Venmo links down below. Thank you guys tremendously for watching. I really appreciate it, and I couldn't be here without you. Have a great day. I'll see you guys later. Peace. Yo, thank you so much for watching until the very end of the video. I really appreciate that, and hopefully it was worth your time. If your name is on this list, that means I appreciate you even more, and you go above and beyond and physically allow my channel to function. I appreciate you so much, and have a great day.